Okay, so this week's parsha in Chutz La'aretz is Tazria Metzora. In Eretz Yisrael, we read Tazria Metzora this past week. So I can share with you an idea that I heard this Shabbos from Rav Chaim Malunowitz in Shul. The Rav of the Shul that I go to, Rav Malunowitz, asked the following question. When it comes to Tazria Metzora, we know the punishment of tzaras, of leprosy, Chazal tell us, comes from Lashon Hara. The Lashon of Metzora is Motzi Ra. You're speaking Motzi Shema, you're speaking bad about a fellow person. And even before you get to the Chafetz Chaim and before his putting it all together, the Gemara in many different places, take a look at Erech and Daf Tezvav, really hammers home how terrible, terrible, terrible Lashon Hara is. It's as if you're kofir, be'ikar, terrible, terrible things. And again, the Chafetz Chaim put it all together and told us how many Averos are violated and how terrible it is. And when you think about it, there are a lot of Averos in the Torah, and why does Lashon Hara climb so high? Why is it that the Gemara tells us it's kafar be'ikar? It's as if you wrote your shofek damim. It's an Avera, and all the Averos are terrible, but why does Lashon Hara rate so high that a whole set of parashas are devoted, a whole plague is devoted to it? What exactly is so terrible about Lashon Hara? We know it's bad to speak bad of our fellow man, but there are a lot of terrible averos. Why does Lashon Hara, why is it so fundamental? So Rav Malunowitz suggests the following idea, which I think is a very, very important idea, something certainly to think about during Sfiras HaOmer period, but in general, it's a fundamental idea. And that is that when it comes to why we're here in the world, we're here in the world to grow, to steig, to develop ourselves. In Ruchnius, in all areas, we're here to develop ourselves, to grow. Now, that comes through hard work, there's no doubt about it, but sometimes we live in a world that we're always doing comparative analysis. We're always looking at our colleagues, looking at our peers, looking at our friends, and evaluating ourselves based on that circle around us. And really, therefore, I can often have two avenues to grow. One avenue to grow is going to be by really doing the hard internal work that growth is all about. The other avenue is if I can go ahead, since we live in this comparative world, I can go ahead and put my friend down. I can say Lashon Hara, I can go ahead and push him down, and as a consequence, Mamela, I feel that I'm growing. I feel elevated. If I go ahead and say, yeah, that person who's doing some learning, but his learning is not so great, he's not so serious, etc. So all of a sudden, just by happenstance, I am promoting myself. I'm giving myself a false sense of development, of growth, but it's not real. It's a function of putting him down. There's two fundamental flaws. One is that the whole concept of evaluating ourselves based on our neighbors, based on our peers, based on our classmates, that's a flaw. That's a fundamental flaw. Moreover, I'm giving myself this false sense of growth, and therefore I'm not going to do the real growth. And that's really what Lashon Hara, the Rav suggests, produces. It produces this false sense of growth that's going to undermine what I'm really here to achieve and to accomplish. It's no coincidence that the greatest of our avos, perhaps even Moshe Rabbeinu, he even greater, the avos themselves, Avram Avinu says, Anochi Afar ve'efer. And Moshe Rabbeinu is the on of Mikol Ma. He says even less than Afar ve'efer. Anachnu ma, I'm nothing, I'm a zero. Why is it that he achieved so much, Avram Avinu achieved so much, but he says, Nachnu ma? Avram says, Anochi Afar ve'efer. So the answer is, if they were to go ahead and just evaluate themselves, if Avram looked at his peers, looked at the society around him and evaluated himself based on that, sure, he could have been complacent, he could have been satisfied by where he was. But indeed, his connection, his perhaps person, if you will, thing that he evaluated himself keneged was Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu, Anav Mikol Adam, when he understood where he was in the cosmic world, Klape Shmaya, so then he understood exactly where he was, and that produces, when you understand who you are, not evaluating yourself based on your colleagues, your friends, but on essential things, that's going to produce an environment for growth. So Lashon Hara undermines that phenomena, and therefore, to go ahead and be authentic about growth, be internal about growth, not external, but internal. I like to always tell over my wife when the kids come home at the end of a period of time with their report cards. So I ask them, I see they did pretty well. So I'm always curious how they do well relative to their classmates. It's a bad thing. It's a terrible thing to do. You got a 90 on your test. Well, if everyone else got a 95, it's not so good. If everyone else got an 85, it's very good. It's not the way we're supposed to evaluate ourselves. I'm making a mistake. Forget what your classmates did. What's most important, as my wife always points out, Did you try your best? Did you do your best? Internally, did you steig? That's really what it's all about. That's what we're here for. Lashon Hara diminishes that, and that's the scourge that Lashon Hara is.